Pete perennially complains that running backs, you shouldn't pay running backs. Don't pay running backs. Don't draft running backs. You just throw the guy in there, run until he's dead, and then you buy another one. You just get another one. It's cheap. Dumb position. Don't do it. And then Pete comes out here and ranks 8 running backs in his top 100. He does this with his top 100 players too. It's like Derrick Henry at 4. It's like you say running backs don't matter. Speaking of Derrick Henry, he's on this list, a list which, by the way, I mean, this is a fantasy football gold mine in terms of the guys that have produced, guys who are big names. I see, I think, 5 first or second round picks from like my fantasy league last year who are free agents. It just speaks to the value of the running back position. We have Saquon Barkley at 16, Josh Jacobs at 24, Derrick Henry all the way down at 52. I guess Tony Pollard at 58. I don't think I really knew that Tony Pollard was a free agent, to be honest. DeAndre Swift at 64, Austin Eckler at 74, AJ Dillon at 85, and Zach Moss at 96. Thoughts, Sully, on this overall draft, overall free agent class of running backs? Because I guess some of these guys can go back to their old team. Doesn't feel like many of these guys are going to get franchise tags.
It wouldn't surprise me if we see almost all of these players on different teams, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know if we're going to get, well, first of all, I don't think some of these players are capable of getting the franchise tag yet again, because a lot of them got tagged last year. And so, I'm looking at, Derrick Henry. I know he's the 3rd guy on this list, but, overall, in terms of career success, he's clearly number 1, in my opinion. I think that he is, and I said it at the trade deadline, I'll say it now. I think he's perfect for the Baltimore Ravens. I think that if the Ravens are going to go after one of these running backs, because I do believe that they're going to be in the running back market, he is certainly one that I would go after. The pairing of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry would create just a heck of a mismatch. So to me, that's the biggest takeaway, is that I think Derrick Henry's hitting the market. I think his time in Tennessee is done. And where does he go? I would pick Baltimore if I were him.
I think I've noticed, you make these best ball drafts just because it sort of gives you an idea of what the general consensus thought process is. Ravens running backs are way down the board. Like Gus Edwards is way down, J.K. Dobbins is way down, Justice Hill is way down, and J.K. Dobbins is a free agent as well. But the point being is that it seems, even Keith Mitchell's way down, and there's so much like up in the air with all these guys. It just seems like Baltimore is a team that is going to find a running back to put in the system. And when you think about what Todd Monken ran at Georgia, and I don't know how identical you can sort of like the apples to apples comparison there, because Georgia wanted to be a physical run team and play defense, but I do think the Ravens want to run. And if you go get a Josh Jacobs or a Derrick Henry, and you put him in a system with Lamar Jackson and the weapons that they've sort of developed, and Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely played great. You can do some 2 tight end stuff, like read option with Lamar. Dude, how does a read option with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry not destroy the NFL for a full season? You don't do it all the time. I think you're onto something.
I think it's one of the craziest red zone threats that we would see in 2024 is
Mark Andrews, Derrick Henry, and Lamar Jackson. Like, that's a 90% red zone touchdown team.
Absolutely, 100%. And honestly, you put any one of these running backs, in the top, I don't know, you could go down to, really all of them at this point. They're all better than what they had.
Saquon with the Ravens would be awesome too. I think Saquon's problem is he really loves New York. The Giants franchise at reach. The Giants ownership really likes Saquon, and they're not. I don't think they'll franchise tag him. I think he's going to try and go out there and find a bigger deal. He won't find something. I can see him going back to New York. Any thoughts on that, Breach?
On Saquon going back to New York?
Like after he explores the market and is like, oh, there's no money for running backs out there.
I don't know about that, because I do feel like there will be some money for running backs. Okay. They're not going to get what they want. Look, the market is not going to be ever what it was unless you're Christian McCaffrey. I don't think we're going to see a guy getting more than $12 million, but I do think there are enough teams that need running backs. And we just, you saw the graphic. You already shouted out the producers. This is a loaded running back class. I mean, the fact that if you're the Cowboys or the Eagles or the Ravens, you are sitting there, you have your choice of Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley. I mean, this is so loaded that I do think some of these guys, I don't think Saquon Barkley is going to be able to get tag money, which I think is $12.1 million for him because he gets the 20% raise over last year's tag. I don't think he's going to be able to get that, but I do think he'll find a team that will pay him 10 or 11 million. And I think he'd gladly take it to leave the Giants and maybe be in a better situation. Because what if the Ravens can't get Derrick Henry? Do you think they'll call Josh Jacobs or call Saquon Barkley? So
I don't know if did you hear I don't know if you heard the convo about Derrick Henry. We just did a whole Ravens Derrick Henry thing, but how unstoppable would be in the red zone. But like Saquon on the Ravens would be pretty awesome too, especially catching passes out of the backfield, and you're spelling it with Keaton Mitchell, and you got Gus there. Like somebody's a hammer. I will say, I think that, and I think this is really interesting. Josh Jacobs, friend of the pod, Josh Jacobs, awesome dude. He really wanted out of Las Vegas last year. He did not see eye to eye with Josh McDaniels. As I understand it, it wasn't the franchise tag that made him mad with the team. It was them playing him in the second half of the Hall of Fame game. That it really made him mad, and it made him run angry. McDaniels didn't use him very well in the first half of the season after a great previous year. And I think he's going to end up staying in Las Vegas on a decent deal because he fits exactly what Antonio Pierce is trying to build there. And I think he loves playing for Antonio Pierce. I think Antonio Pierce is like, dude, I will run you 25 times a game and you will pile up stats. And I think the Raiders actually get something done with Josh Jacobs. That's my inclination there.
Well, I like that. I mean, again, from every account, they all wanted Antonio Pierce back. I mean, Max Crosby was like basically requesting a trade if that didn't happen. So if Josh Jacobs has that same type of affection for the new coaching staff, that would make all the sense in the world. Breach, I did want to ask you, because I do feel like the Bengals are a sneaky running back team this offseason. Are any of these running backs on your radar? Am I right in that assumption that they could be targeting one of these guys, or do you think that they just bring back Joe Mixon?
And we're noting, Breach, that our pal and friend of the pod, Paul Dehner Jr. of The Athletic, and Joe Mixon are currently in some kind of like little Twitter beef with Dehner calling out Mixon, saying he needs to take a pay cut or get cut, and Mixon saying that like Paul's an idiot and doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, real quick, I want to say on Josh Jacobs that remember he sat out the last 4 games of last season when he had the quad injury. It looked like he was going to return in week 17. He didn't play. It looked like he was going to return in week 18. Didn't play. So I'm not sure how much on the same page he is with the new coaching staff, because he didn't play many games under them, and then he never came back on the field. He didn't play in their 63-point outburst against the Chargers. The last game he played in was the Raiders offense did nothing, and they got shut out in that 3-0 loss to the Vikings. So I'll be interested to see if he does want to return. With the Bengals, I would put it at like 70-30 that Mixon is not there. But if he's not there, it's because they don't want to pay him the pay cut thing. So you're looking at a situation. I don't think the Bengals are going to go out and spend $10 million on a running back when they have Mixon under contract at a reasonable rate. And so if they're not willing to pay him, they're not going to go out and sign Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley, I don't think, unless those guys are willing to take something between like $3 and $5 million. So would they love to have one of those guys? Yes, I'm sure they would, but they're not going to break the bank to pay a running back.
The Cowboys, really quickly, I don't want to expand the segment too much, but I do think the Cowboys are really interesting. And look, a hand up, I really don't think I was like, I forgot that Tony Pollard played on the franchise tag because he got tagged. He signed it so fast. I was like, he's a free agent. Rico Dowdle's a free agent.
He was coming off a broken leg. Of course he signed it. He's like, wait.
Well, no, I know that.
He wants his
money. He's like $10 million free bucks. But I just wonder, Rico Dowdle's a free agent. The only running back the Cowboys have under contract right now for 2024 is Deuce Vaughn. And it's not a huge deal because there's all of these running backs who are free agents. But man, a Mike McCarthy offense with the Saquon Barkley or Austin Eckler or, I don't know, Derrick Henry. I mean, I don't know. Like, do we think the Cowboys are going to just sort of – because sometimes with Dallas, you'll have situations where a guy like Tony Pollard will just – you just want to stick around Dallas, it feels like maybe sign for a little bit less. But he wasn't very productive. Dowdle was better. I don't know. The Cowboys situation just looks so interesting to me.
Yeah, I think that they could bring, honestly, any of these in. But to me, I think Austin Eckler would be the most fascinating because if they just want to go all in on just airing it out and just saying, "Hey, we're gonna throw it all over the field. We're gonna throw it out of the backfield. We're gonna just basically, throw the running game off to the side." Obviously, being a little facetious, but that to me, I think would be an interesting one because you have a guy in Austin Eckler who has been with the Chargers his entire career. It's, for the most part, been an afterthought franchise in the city that they're currently in. And then they relocated from San Diego. If you could just all of a sudden put the star on the side of your helmet and be the running back for the Dallas Cowboys, I think that would be very attractive for him.
And even someone like Austin Eckler, where you have a guy who can catch passes out of the backfield. Yeah,
that's what he just says.
or Josh Jacobs. So I was going to go through. I
or
really
even somebody like Austin Eckler.
Any one of these running backs would be a good fit with the Cowboys. Even Derrick Henry for one season, just having someone who could bulldoze.
I think you were thinking Sully was saying Saquon Barkley, but you're right. Both it all works. You pop that star on your helmet, it's like you have a monster season in that offense. Tony Pollard, I had Tony Pollard in fantasy. If you watched him play a bunch, if you watch the Cowboys play, he could have scored 20 touchdowns. He was tackled to the one a bunch, and he just wasn't very explosive because of that injury. He could have had a big year.
Josh Jacobs, too, I think could be a good fit with them.